Welcome back, I'm Felix, and this is Watch Mojo, 10 Wives Who Brutally Killed Their Husbands. Having a little argument with my wife when I came across this, I thought, maybe I should watch this. Here's hoping my wife doesn't get any ideas. Let's get into it.
I didn't kill him, she said. I don't know how to kill.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're looking at the most violent cases of mariticide by wives against their husbands or ex.
Mariticide? They give everything a name. I did not know that was a thing. That's the first time I can recall ever hearing that. Maritalcide. Okay.
I had informed my attorneys of the purchase of the gun, and they said, well, if they ask, don't lie.
Clara Harris.
It's not the same Clara I know. I think something happened. I can't believe it.
Even those with seemingly perfect lives can harbor dark thoughts and may even...
That is a common thing. There's like, I just can't believe it. Well, you don't know what was going on behind the scene. It could have been him. It could have been all her. You never know.
With a good career and a loving family, Clara Harris seemed to have it all. That all changed when she suspected that her husband David was having an affair. She hired a personal detective who confirmed her suspicions on July 24th, 2002. That night, she...
Just get a divorce. Take him for everything. Just take him for everything. Just get a divorce.
He went to a hotel where he and his mistress were meeting. When he came outside, she reportedly ran over him multiple times, killing him, while her stepdaughter helplessly watched on.
There was a videotaping of them going into the hotel, and there was a videotaping of when the tragedy developed.
Harris received a 20-year prison sentence for the act in 2003. She was freed in 2023 following the completion of her parole, but her infamous crime lives on to this day.
The orthodontist was escorted to an SUV where she was given a long welcome home hug.
Pamela Smart.
She tells police that Billy and Pam were lovers.
They were friends, and then they were having an affair.
That name sounds familiar. Hopefully they go into details.
Cameras were first allowed in courtrooms. This quickly became the trial of the decade. On trial was Pamela Smart, a woman accused of coercing her underage boyfriend and his friends into breaking into her home and slaying her spouse Greg. She tried to claim that she had nothing to do with the concoction of the violent plan. But testimonies from the boys involved and recordings of Smart's conversations led to her being convicted of several charges, including being an accomplice to murder in the first degree.
I think it's the one Nicole Kidman played her in the movie.
That while I was making my documentary, Teens Speak Out, James and Russell became acquainted with my husband without me knowing and got him addicted to drugs and became his main supplier.
Her nose looks weird. Does she have a nose job, or did they put makeup on her nose?
She received a life sentence in 1991 and maintained her innocence for decades, only finally accepting full responsibility in 2024 in an attempt to get her sentence reduced.
Now that I am older and able to look back on things, I can see so many errors that I made, and I can see how skewed my judgment was.
Betty Broderick.
Why would somebody from Betty's background act the way she did? We just wanted the jurors to ask the question.
Up until 1982, Betty Broderick had a pretty picturesque life. The veneer cracked that year when her longtime husband Dan hired Linda Kolkina as his assistant. Betty began to suspect they were having an affair, and in 1985, her fears were validated when he moved out to be with her. A long divorce ensued, pushing her closer and closer to the brink.
He kept telling me that I was sick and that I was crazy and I needed help. And he told the children that I was sick.
And how did that affect you?
It made me feel sick.
Things boiled over in 1989 when she began acting erratically. Vandalism quickly escalated to murder when she broke into Dan's home on November 5th, 1989.
I think Dan might have been right. He must have saw a side of you. I know some people, he drove her to it. Nah, there was something there. Because every time I hear he drove her to it, it's like, did he beat her? Was he abusive to her? Well, and then none of that surfaces. Like, they weren't abusive or anything like that. They just cheated on him. Well, that doesn't give you the right to take your life. Just take him to court, sue him for everything.
And Linda multiple times in their bed. She was immediately jailed, and after 2 trials, she was handed 2 lengthy sentences, which she's still serving today.
Mrs. Broderick is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder.
I think you're saying they must have did a movie because it looked like an actress.
Mr. Carpenter, how does your client plead?
We enter a plea of not guilty, Your Honor, and request a jury trial.
Melanie McGuire.
Melanie McGuire, once a married mother to 2 little boys and a fertility nurse, is today a 47-year-old inmate at the Edna Mann Correctional Facility in Clinton, New Jersey.
Some people commit acts so violent that they seem incomprehensible. That was the case for Melanie McGuire, who fatally shot her partner Bill in 2004. She then dissected his body and distributed the parts across 3 different suitcases before throwing them into the Chesapeake Bay. Their discovery sometime later would lead to her being dubbed the Suitcase Murderer, a title that follows her to this day.
Virginia Beach detectives find out that Melanie McGuire had given most of Bill's belongings away to a friend's cousin. Eventually, they found out that most of Bill's clothing was still in black trash bags.
She pled not guilty and still maintains her innocence many years into her life sentence. To this day, a confirmed motive still isn't known. No matter the reasoning, her horrific crime has ensured that she'll spend the rest of her days in prison, as she won't be eligible for parole until she's 101.
The desecration that has been considered by this court has been a significant...
Sometimes I wish I could see the evidence when people say not that they're innocent, because there have been a situation where the person was innocent. Years later, it's found out. There was a woman just recently got her freedom because they were able to prove that the whole system was rigged. I mean, literally rigged. Like the cops lied about so much stuff because her husband, I think, was a cop or ex-cop. So they lied and covered up a whole bunch of stuff just to get a conviction against her. Here, she didn't do it. And they went after her. They went after the wrong person. If they had actually just done their job, they probably could have got the correct person. But that's why sometimes I wish I could see the evidence to be like, did you do it? And then look at it and be like, oh, yeah, you did that.
Element that causes this court to consider the aggravating factors associated with the murder.
Betty Newmar.
You know, the news showed her walking along with bracelets on, and then she had that orange outfit on. I said, that woman always dressed neat.
Some call her the Black Widow. Before finally being arrested in 2007, Betty Newmar appears to have claimed as many as 5 husbands. Most had been murdered in violent ways, though final husband John Newmar supposedly died naturally. Although arsenic poisoning was suspected, it was Newmar's brother that heavily encouraged the police to investigate. They found that she allegedly hired hitmen to do her dirty work for her, all to collect their life insurance payouts.
They're nuts. I never said I want you to kill Harold. Who says that I did? I didn't approach anybody.
Before she could go to trial, she herself died in 2011, so there was no chance for the evidence to be presented and her guilt or innocence established. It's hard not to wonder what the outcome would have been.
Okay, the evidence is so strong that the community needs to hear it, and they need to decide whether or not that person is guilty of that crime.
Susan Wright.
They looked more...
Okay, let me think. Susan Wright. That name sounds familiar. I can't think of it. But yeah, some of these names do sound familiar. But man, most of these are like, he was cheating on me. Get a divorce. I don't have the money. Trust me, it's a lot better than taking their life, because then you're going to jail.
More than like a genuinely happy family. They look like a veritable ad for any kind of product that you'd want to sell to middle America.
After claiming to have suffered severe physical abuse at the hands of her husband Jeff, Susan Wright struck back. In January of 2003, she tied him to the bedposts and proceeded to stab him 193 times before burying his remains. When the case went to trial in 2004, there was an immediate divide. The defense claimed it had been done in self-defense, while the prosecution argued that she was weaponizing her emotions.
The prosecution, using a co-worker, reenacted the night Susan Wright tied her husband Jeff to the bed with neckties.
Reenacting the murder in court added fuel to the fire. When the smoke cleared, Wright was found guilty and sentenced to 25 years. A new witness coming forward in 2008 led to her punishment being slightly reduced, and she was eventually released on parole in 2020.
What this means is that today, as the cliche goes, is the first day of the rest of Susan's life in the free world.
Mary Elizabeth Wilson.
So, the person testified that he was abusive? I don't know. As I said, I wish I could see the evidence.
I think Mary was acquiring a taste
for murder and money.
It was her sense of humor and nonchalant way of grieving her spouses that caused Mary Elizabeth Wilson's downfall. Her first husband died in 1955 following decades of marriage. Her second died in 1956 after just months. Both seemingly passed from natural causes. The pattern continued on twice more, with both men dying within a year. Each time, their money went to Wilson. She made copious jokes about them, leading to an investigation. The bodies of her last two revealed high amounts of phosphorus, and she was convicted of their deaths, with evidence later suggesting she killed her first two as well. She was condemned to death, but her age got it reduced to life in prison, where she died in 1962.
You said he was in hospital. Did I? I don't remember saying that.
Losing one husband is unfortunate. Losing two is careless.
Chisako Kakei.
Police say an autopsy found cyanide in the stomach and blood of her 75-year-old fourth husband. He died in December, less than 2 months after their wedding.
As Wilson and our next
2 months after the wedding? Oh yeah, they're looking into you.
Prove age doesn't have to be a barrier when committing heinous crimes. Chisako Kakei was in her 60s when she was arrested in 2014 after cyanide was found in her deceased second husband's system.
Police may have a hard time proving Kakei killed her previous partners. Autopsies are rare in Japan.
During the extensive trial, it was found that her cruelty dated back to 2007 and that she'd killed 3 men in total, along with attempting to kill another. And there may have been other victims as well. After she killed them, she would collect the inheritance and find a new victim. In 2017, she was condemned to death by hanging, but died of natural causes in 2024 before her sentence could be carried out.
The court heard how the accused amassed millions of euros worth of insurance payments and inheritance.
Mary Aubrey.
I was looking at that tablet thing there. That's a Wabcom. It looks like a Wabcom tablet up there. I wonder what they use that for.
All the way back in the 1600s, French midwife Mary Aubrey lived with her husband Denis in London. Their marriage was perilous, as Denis was an abusive spouse with a substance use disorder. Having made unsuccessful attempts to exit the relationship, Aubrey demanded a change in his behavior, or else. When his awful mistreatment continued, she followed through on her threat to end his life. After having done so, she dismembered him in an attempt to discard any evidence of her crime. This plan was ineffective, and Aubrey was arrested about a month later. She pled guilty and was sentenced to death by burning.
Death by burning? Jeez.
Before we continue, Betty Lou Beats.
The minute I saw her, the hair stood up on the back of my neck. Something in your heart just tells you something wrong with this person.
Though she's believed to have killed and injured multiple husbands, Betty Lou Beats has managed to win over the hearts of...
She just looks mean. She was like, I'm going to kill you when you least suspect it. It's like, geez, she's just ready to come at you.
Of countless supporters. They've both claimed that a majority of her marriages were abusive and that she attacked back out of self-defense. In 1985, she was arrested for the 1983 slaying of her fifth partner Dawn, whom she had shot and stuffed inside a well. Upon investigating her home, the remains of her fourth husband were also found. Though she initially...
I'm sorry, all of them were abusive? And you killed them? How about don't date the same type of man?
Tried to pawn the blame off onto her children, she was eventually found guilty and sentenced to death. She was executed in...
She tried to blame her children. Jesus.
Amid protests, putting a permanent end to her spree.
Human rights groups took up her cause. The locals were not sympathetic to her plight.
Her attempt to blame her own children showcases a very sick, evil person.
Which of these...
Yeah, she tried to blame her children. I don't feel sorry for her. It'd be different if she just came forward, they were abusive, I killed them. I'll give you 2. But she was on her 5th husband. If you haven't learned the signs of abusive people by then, I'm sorry. And then you try to blame your children, it was not abuse. She was probably doing it for insurance and money somehow. Or she just like killing. You never know. I'll leave a link for Mojo here. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and everyone take care. Later.